What it do, baby? Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be saying that. I have missed YouTubing so much. I feel like YouTube is my little baby. I obviously did not leave because of anything other than the simple fact that I absolutely had to, because of why you are all here clicking on this video. I got butt implants, and if you haven't watched my previous two videos about my butt implants, the first week and then the consultation, both of them are under, if you just search Shania butt implants, you can find both of those videos. First, I just want to answer like two of the most common questions that I got on my first week video, which was how much was it? And it was $11,000. And who was my doctor? My doctor was David Schifrin. I think his name is David, Dr. Schifrin. But this video is just going to be all about how my first 2 months went. And it was supposed to be how my first 1 month went, but I will tell you why I didn't make a video in a couple minutes. I just kind of want to start it off kind of like week by week or like section by section, what happened when. So whenever I last filmed, I was on my way to Texas, and the plane ride was kind of my first time ever sitting, and it honestly went pretty well. It felt very weird, and on top of that, the plane was like completely full. So I sat down on my booty pillow the majority of the time with my butt elevated, although my butt still did have some pressure on it, and it was honestly fine. And then I got back to Texas. I stayed with my family for a couple days. This was about maybe like a week and a half to 2 weeks at this point. By this time, I was starting to be able to kind of bend a little bit more and like squat down a little bit more and just be a little bit more mobile. It was just getting better and better every day. So my family was having some friends over and talking out by the pool. So I went out by the pool and I laid down on my stomach and I put a towel over my bum because I just thought, like, why not? My family is all out here talking and I don't want to miss out, so I can just lay down and, you know, protect my bum from the sun by putting a towel over it. And it was really hot and I got a little bit sweaty. I was still basically laying down majority of the day, only getting up when I absolutely had to. So everything was, you know, going okay. It was just slowly getting a little bit better. So then I finally went back to my apartment. This was right at the 2 week mark. My incision started feeling super weird. It was kind of like burning, and I took a couple of videos of it and I could tell it looked a little bit like wet almost, and the sticky thing that they had put on my incision had come off, I'm assuming from when I sweated by the pool. So I called my surgeon immediately in the morning whenever my incision was feeling really weird, and she was like, yeah, I'll have the nurses give you a call. And I had followed up with her an email. So then around 7 p.m. I started feeling so sick. And guys, I have a really high pain tolerance. I don't know if y'all have heard, but redheads have a really high pain tolerance. And it's true. For me to like really be like, holy shit, I'm about to cry, I feel so bad, you know I'm hurting. So I ended up having to call the like emergency surgery people line that Dr. Schifrin has and be like, hey, I reached out this morning and was asking about potentially a complication that's going on with my incision. And whenever I did call them that morning, they made it seem like no big deal. Like, no, everything just seemed very nonchalant. And I will say, even when I got my surgery, like, it was just all very nonchalant energy. And I don't like that because I'm doing something life-changing right now. Like, imagine if you went bungee jumping and the guy was just like lackadaisical, like, no, you're about to, like, I'm trusting you for me to jump off of the freaking bridge right now. This doesn't need to just be like nonchalant. Like, give me some like reassurance, or like, you know, act like this is a big moment in my life, because it is. I did not like that they were, how nonchalant they were being in my surgery, and I didn't like how nonchalant they were being when I was having a potential complication. Sorry, I feel like this is just gonna be a big ramble of a mess because just a lot has happened. So I'm feeling weird this day. I call them and she tells me the nurse will be with me. The nurse never contacts me, so I email them, no response. So then at the end of the night, I'm feeling absolutely terrible. Like I don't know, fatigue and like chills and like achiness is really setting in. So I call their emergency hotline and I'm like, hey, I am really feeling bad. I need to know if I have an infection that's going on or what it is because I'm really scared and I don't want it to get worse. Then I finally get in contact with a nurse who then at 7 p.m. writes me a prescription that I have to go pick up from CVS. Mind you, I'm feeling like absolute dog poop. I live by myself. I walk to CVS, and when I tell you in CVS, like, I seriously, with my whole heart, was really scared that I was about to faint. It was really scary. I was almost crying. Everyone was looking at me like, is this girl okay? I couldn't even help myself. I was so sick, like on the verge of just busting out into tears. So then I finally get back, I take the medicine. When I tell you that night was one of the sickest nights that I have ever been. I called almost all of my sisters, my best friends, just hysterically crying, begging someone to come help me and someone to take care of me. I took my temperature multiple times and it was like 100, 101, 102. Like at one point when I was under the covers, it was like 104. I was debating going to the emergency room, but when I talked to the nurse, she was like, don't do that. They might not know what to do and they might just try to take out your implants, and that freaked me all the way out. She was like, just take your medicine. It's gonna like get better. It's fine. I understand you're scared and all of this. And I voiced to her how frustrated I was just with the whole process and how I felt like this could have been avoided had I known to slow down earlier in the day or had I known, you know, anything really. And that was another one of my frustrations with Dr. Schifrin, I guess, and his practice was that they didn't really tell me like what I could and couldn't do. For me, I need guidelines. So they told me that I basically couldn't sit down until 4 weeks. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, I'm good to go as long as I don't, you know, I don't sit down and like put pressure on my bum. So I'm doing little outfit changes, you know, extending my energy a little bit because I had to work, like it's my job. And I can't imagine girls who are dancers and have to go back to work after 2 weeks, you know, like what if that was me and he didn't tell me that I couldn't do that. It was just really frustrating for me because I felt like if I did have these hard guidelines, then my recovery would have gone so much smoother because I would have known what I was and wasn't capable of truly. Moral of the story, I got super sick that night, and then from then on, my incision was just leaking insane amounts of liquid, just disgusting. It was gross. And if you guys don't know, the incision that I'm talking about, they cut right in the middle of my butt crack. And that is one way to do the procedure, is to put the incision right in the middle of your butt crack. But that has a higher complication rate because of the amount of stress and pulling that area gets on your body. So a lot of doctors will put the incisions right, like a little bit off of that, one on each butt cheek to kind of insert each implant that way. And I'll insert pictures hopefully so you guys can see the difference. So that way it doesn't have all of that stress and pulling, because every time you bend down, every time you reach for anything, that area is getting some stress on it, you know? So that single incision of mine was just leaking all of these red, yellow fluids. And after a couple days, it finally subsided, but I had this gaping hole where the incisions were leaking. And if you guys are really freaked out by blood or really freaked out by like just anything kind of like bodily fluids, cuts, scrapes, anything like that, I would definitely suggest skipping forward. I'll put it on the screen for a good 5 seconds for you. So skip ahead 5 seconds. So I had this gaping hole in my incision and I was really freaked out. They were just kind of making it seem like nonchalant, just put some gauze in it. And even then I didn't really understand what they meant at all. Throughout that time, I would say for about a week, I was just leaking really bad, or 4 or 5 days I was just leaking really bad. And then I had that hole. So we're at like 3.5 weeks now and I'm having this big gaping hole inside of me. 4 weeks come and I'm thinking she's very nonchalant. She's just like, oh, just put some gauze in it and it'll heal. So when it hits 4 weeks, I'm like, okay, well now this is the 4-week mark. I'm supposed to be able to sit down. So as long as I have gauze in it, like she said, I should be able to sit down, right? Looking back, this is a little bit of common sense that you shouldn't do that when you're having like a rip, but in my mind, I don't know any of this stuff. I've never had butt implants. I've never known anyone that has butt implants, and that is why I wanted to like film this process so bad for you guys, because there's videos upon videos upon videos upon videos of boob implants all over YouTube, but you have such slim pickings when you're looking for butt implants because one, people lie about it all the time. There's so many influencers that aren't open about it. There's also just, I think, more of a stigma around butt implants for some reason. So as someone who was trying to get butt implants, I knew no one that had gotten them before. It's just not as common of a thing in general, on top of the fact that people are not very open about it. I just didn't know. So I was sitting while I had this hole, and I'm pretty sure I made it worse, and just was like squatting a little bit, trying to get back to work, trying to run errands in my car, because it's 4 weeks now. I haven't been able to drive my car at all. I haven't been able to sit down to eat. I'm literally laying and eating, and it's so uncomfortable. Like, I'm just trying to paint you guys a picture of, I don't understand, unless you work solely on your computer, and even then standing up all day would probably be really annoying. But for me, I don't work like that. For me, I work by taking pictures and making content and stuff like that, and just laying down is not in the picture for those type of things. It's just not. Or even really standing up, because I couldn't really pose and not stretch the incision. It was just, it felt really, really impossible. So 4 weeks, I think it's okay in my head to go drive around, go places, sit when I need to. And I think the hole started getting worse. I'm not exactly sure at what point I contacted the nurse, but I was like, I just don't think it's getting any better. And she was like, it's gonna get better. And then I was like, I don't really understand what you mean by putting the gauze in there. And then she was like, you have to kind of pack it in there. So I literally had to put the gauze inside of the hole, whereas at first I was just kind of wedging it in between my butt crack, like just wedging a piece of gauze on top of it, if you can imagine that. But you really have to be putting it inside of there. For what reason? I don't know. She didn't tell me. She just told me that was the way it closed. She told me I couldn't sit, so I was like, I was like, okay, so clearly by sitting, I've made it worse. So I am just literally, like, I'm so scared at this point. I'm so freaked out. Every time I try to, you know, advance my life a little bit or take, you know, a little leap towards my life going back to normal, something happens with these butt implants that sets me back 10 feet. So I'm just like, I'm literally just going to lay down and not do anything until this thing closes up. So then I went to my family's house. They changed my gauze every 3 hours. I'm telling you, I was literally laying down 23 hours of the day, maybe even like 23.5, eating ramen, eating PB&J. I was just binging Netflix all day. I was getting so depressed. I had no motivation whatsoever to get up in the mornings. In the mornings, like, and for it to like really for it to kind of even show that it was getting better, every day it was just so minuscule of an improvement of it getting better. But I did find a little bit of hope in the fact that it was getting better, even a little bit. But it was just so subtle every single day. And so for a week straight, 7 days, I was just binging Netflix, just laying down and eating like absolute crap. And I was in a very bad place. I didn't have my dog with me, so I was paying for dog care for my dog. Meanwhile, I haven't worked in over a month at this point, a month and a couple weeks. Like, every time I've tried to work, I've just gotten kind of knocked back down. So I couldn't imagine this happening to someone who is, you know what I mean? Like, I'm so thankful and grateful that I at least had some sort of money coming in without me doing anything just from my subscriptions. But like, it was nothing compared to what I usually make in the lifestyle that I have to maintain. So I was just so stressed about work, but I was like, this healing needs to come first. So, this is so depressing. I'm sorry, guys. So this is around week 5, and I finally go back to my apartment because I really missed my dog, and I'm just trying to do the gauze and everything myself, and I'm still just like laying down completely, not really doing anything, and I'm in my apartment and still just binging Netflix every day. Very, very, very depressed. Very depressed. Not seeing sunlight. Like, I just really can't even tell you guys. It was nothing near how quarantine was for me. Like, quarantine, I was still stretching in my room. I was still like trying to make myself better, making content. Like, you know, I just had that freedom to not be horizontal. It started looking a lot better around week 6. The incision started closing up a lot more. And so I called my friend Julia and I was like, girl, I'm about to lose my mind. Like, can you please, she lives in Dallas and I live in Houston. I was like, can you please fly down and drive me back to where you live so I can just stay with someone, because right now, like, I just need someone around me because I live alone and I'm just going kind of crazy. So if I have someone around me, like, they can drive me places and I won't have to sit and, you know, all that. So she's a freaking angel and she came down and I went to go stay with her. And since then, the incision just started getting more closed and closed and closed every day. And now I am at week 7. Finally, I have been kind of living my life pretty normally for the past week or so. Obviously, I try to be pretty careful about it. I'm not doing anything too crazy. I did, but the incision finally like 100% closed, I would say. I will put it on the screen so I don't mess it up, but I will tell you exactly when the incision was 100% healed, like no more issues whatsoever. Even now, with the incision being fully closed for about a week and no signs of opening, I am just still like scared because I still have that kind of ingrained into me that every time I try to, you know, go back to living somewhat of a sort of normal life or pushing myself, I just don't feel like super good about myself because for the past 2 months I've been eating terrible and not working out. So it's been a struggle, guys. It really has been a struggle. I'm so thankful that I can, you know, drive my car now and sit down comfortably and like go out and go to dinner with friends or just, you know, anything. And sometimes maybe starting like a week ago around the 6-week mark, I found myself waking up in my sleep and I would be on my back, and you know, like it doesn't hurt at all to touch my booty now or press my booty of any sort. It doesn't hurt to sit. I'm like, every day it gets more and more easy just to kind of like sit and not think about it. I do, now that I have like all of me talking about the complication out of the way, I want to kind of talk about just how the past 2 months have been, just with how it's feeling and how it's looking and everything like that, because not everyone is going to have a complication. And I hope if you do get butt implants that you don't have a complication, because it's not fun. It's really not fun. At first, it was really high and it was really swollen at first. Like for the first kind of like 3 weeks, it was really high and it was swollen. And then I think the swelling wears down around week 4, and then it starts to look almost smaller than you'd want it to be. And like it kind of messes with your head because you're like, I don't even see any difference at all. And I think it's just because your butt hasn't dropped at all and the swelling has worn off. So it's like really high and tight and all your muscles are just all really tight up there. And it's still really hard and everything around week 3, and it's still pretty tender as well. Around week 4, it starts to drop just a little bit and look a little bit bigger than it did around week 3 when the swelling has worn off. Every week it just progressively starts to get lower and lower and just look a little bit more like natural and less stiff, I guess is a good word for it. Like right now, I would say I would be comfortable with like a guy touching my booty. Like it's like kind of softening up around week 7. And this might be as well because apparently it softens up whenever you sit. So I wasn't able to sit for even longer. So maybe someone who didn't have any complications and was able to sit at week 4, they would have had it got softer sooner. Either way, for me, I am just now kind of feeling even remotely comfortable, like maybe with the idea of a guy touching my butt or anything like that, because it was just so hard and like didn't feel sexy, you know, like at all. It looked good, it did look good, but it just didn't feel very nice. But now it's kind of softening up. Don't get me wrong, it is still really stiff, and like when I try to twerk it, I'll insert a video of how it looks and how it is twerking here, but it's still very much just like whenever you twerk, your butt is kind of just moving. But whenever I twerk right now, you can tell it's still stiff and it just feels like one big movement, whereas like normally twerking is a bunch of other movements. And I do think that that'll get better with time as it just continues to be softer and softer. Right now it is still pretty high and I don't love the way that it looks whenever I bend over, which I will show to you guys as well. I think I can just tell that it looks a little fake when I bend over, but I am a very, very, very harsh critic. And I have been around a lot of people who have seen my butt and they were like, I would have never known that your butt was fake, which is exactly what I wanted. So I know I said a lot of things that were kind of damning, I guess, to Dr. Schifrin. I think that he is really, really busy and I think he is overbooked and I think that he does the bare minimum. And I don't think whenever you're getting a surgery like this and you're paying this amount of money that you should be getting the bare minimum. I think that especially he has people flying in from every part of the world to get surgeries by him. I think especially if they express that they've had some sort of complication, that he should be reaching out and calling and being like, are you okay? How is it going? Or just being more thorough with how to take care of your complications or anything like that. But I did just feel super, super like swept under the rug, and I just felt really like all of this could have been avoided in the first place. And even when it did happen, like I just felt very looked over and like he really didn't care whether I had to get my implants taken out or not. And that's a really shitty feeling to feel when you paid this amount of money for the surgery. But that being said, I really do like my results. I think he does a really, really, really good job. I think he just needs to work on maybe hiring more staff to do the outreach with the patients or whatever the case may be, because it was not a good customer service experience. But I do really like my bum. I think it looks super natural. I think it just looks like I did a bunch of squats, and I can't wait till like another month goes by and it's just even more jiggly and I feel even more comfortable with it. And I'm so happy overall that I got this procedure. Like throughout the procedure, my friends were even asking me like, do you regret this? Like with everything you're going through it. And I know I made the right decision, because even in the midst of going through all that, my biggest fear was losing what I just went under surgery to get and paid all of this money to get. Even all of that aside, like I've always wanted to do this and I've always dreamed of having a bigger bum. I do not regret it whatsoever. I love my new booty. I'm so excited to have a hot girl summer and be shaking it COVID-free and vaccinated, baby, in Miami or wherever the hell I'm gonna go. And yeah, I'm really excited about it and I am really happy with the way it looks. At this point, I'm just trying to get back into a groove and start working again, because it's just been a really, really, really stressful 2 months. Like really, really stressful. And hopefully if any of you get this, like I hope that this helps you in any way know the risks of getting this surgery. I'm just happy that I can be another person to put their experience about getting butt implants online on the internet, because like I said, there is not enough information out there about the surgery and the risks and how hard the recovery can be and all of that. If you guys are interested in butt implants, I would really, really, really recommend going on Real Self. I have read every single review, I promise you, on Real Self of butt implants. It's a little ridiculous, but they have a plethora of procedures as well on Real Self, and you can look at tons of questions and tons of reviews. All in all, I'm super happy with my results. I went through a really rough time, but I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and the universe never gives you something that you can't handle. And I think at the end of the day, these past 2 months have just made me stronger, and I know that I'm going to be happier than ever pretty soon whenever everything feels a lot more like normal life to me. And yeah, I think that pretty much concludes this video. I really feel like I'm leaving something out right now, but I can't think of anything. So if you guys have any questions that I did not already answer in my first video or my second video, please leave them down below. And I appreciate you guys so much for watching. I'm so excited to get back into YouTubing. I'm going to try to be super consistent after this video. And I'm so excited to be making this video. Like, I've thought about this video so much over the past 2 months. But I'm gonna stop rambling now, I promise. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope it helps. And yeah, bye y'all, love you.